We're going to kick off today's press conferences for today's 59th annual Daytona 500. We are first joined by racing icon Mario Andretti, the 1967 Daytona 500 champion. Mario is in an exclusive group here at Daytona, one of 4 men to have won the Rolex 24, A.J. Foyt, Jamie McMurray, and most recently Jeff Gordon. And it's the 50th anniversary of Mario's 1967 Daytona 500 victory. And it's great to have him here today as an honorary race official. Thank you. Third chair there. Here. Before we kick off the question and answer session, we have a special video to play.
I didn't know they had a video. Television was not invented. Danica was not in that race.
I apologize, we cannot hear the audio on that. But Mario, again, it's great to have you here. As you walk around Daytona today, how do you reflect back on that 1967 Daytona 500 win?
It all comes back because, yeah, obviously there's a reason for it. Just by being invited here and talking about it, it's amazing, you know, what comes, some of the memories that come back to you. And so it's really, for me, just a wonderful weekend to have this opportunity to be invited down here, you know, to celebrate this 50 years. You know, obviously I believe in just not giving up and so on and so forth. And it took 50 years now to get the proper ink on this race. So thanks, Joey. Chip.
Excellent. We'll open it up for questions. Please raise your hand. We'll bring a wireless mic to you. We'll start up right up front here with Greg. They'll work our way over to Mike and Lewis.
Hi, Mario. I'm actually honored to speak with you. You're one of my favorite drivers ever. I'm Greg Engel with Auto Week. I'd like to know what you think about today's racers as opposed to the time you raced. And obviously you still drive the two-seat Indy car. You ever think you could get back out here and compete with some of today's drivers?
I'm looking for a ride, actually, you know. You never know. You know, there's a lot of equipment out here that's idle. So, no, I mean, it's, you know, times evolve and the rules change and, you know, a lot of things change. The track remains the same. You know, it's the cars that have evolved. And, you know, the job of the driver is like always was to just take 110% out of the car. And whatever is under you, that's what you take advantage of. Obviously, today's car, it's a different situation with the, you know, the plate races and the downforce that they have and all of that. So, you know, when we were running here back then, you know, we had about 700 horsepower under the hood and hardly any aerodynamics. And so the driving was different. Here now you just down to the floor, you're flat out immediately, and you just gotta be able to play the draft in a different way because you can't get away from anybody, you know. So again, you know, you just do what you have to do with what you have in your hands. So again, I always said the drivers of you know, the past, the champions of the past could be champions today, and vice versa.
I'm going to go up here to Mike. Then we'll go right back to Lewis.
Mike Hembry, Auto Week.
Hey, Mike.
Hey.
There's a lot of talk over the years about how loose your car was that day. Is that the way you wanted it, and did you ever think you were on the edge of losing it?
Well, the car, yeah, it was loose, and that's not the way that I really wanted it, quite honestly, because I didn't have a really good engine in practice and qualify for the single car qualifying. And nobody was really volunteering much information, as to what revs I should be pulling with the gear that I had, except for Donnie Allison. He's the one that told me, and the light went on. I was like 400 revs short. And so I qualified, a single qualifying, single car qualifying with a very shallow rear spoiler. And then I didn't know that, I found out later that I had to race that. So I knew that the car was very balanced mechanically, but it was loose aerodynamically. And nothing I could do about it except drive it. And I got pretty good hang of it during the 100 milers. There were 100 miles, the twins instead of 125, and I led some in that part of it. And so I knew I had a fast car, and so I figured I just got to keep it, from spinning type of thing. And that's why I was driving a bit awkward, to what was the norm. The norm was to really draft as much as possible because you could pass at any time, especially if you're up front. And but I always went for the lead because that's when the car felt the best, in clean air, and especially when somebody was on my left rear corner, just holding my back end in. So, and I rode high quite a bit. Probably, if you look some of the film, actually, I was above the rubber part of, where most of the cars were running, and that's, again, I had to feel the comfort of it. I was afraid of spinning it for sure, but again, I knew I had a fast car. I figured I just got to go with what I have, and it worked. It worked out for me.
Lewis, and then we're going to go over to Hill, Joe, and Bruce.
Buongiorno, Mario.
Luigi.
How did you celebrate the 67 win?
Well, Firestone gave me had a nice dinner with all of the mechanics and everyone, which was the important thing. Ford, they were a bit cool, I want to say, because they really wanted Fred Lorenzen to win, which is fair enough. I didn't understand it then. I understand it now. He was the top guy on the team, and so if there was any choice, I was a one-off race for me. But nevertheless, it was very satisfying. The comments that I was getting from the mechanics, Jake Elder says, that's the closest that I've seen you drive like Fireball Roberts, and that was the biggest compliment he could have ever given me. So, when you celebrate a victory, it's always a great celebration, as you can imagine. But Firestone did that because, in those days you had the big tire war, Firestone and Goodyear, and I was on the Firestone side, so they were happy to win that one.
Hill?
Yes, Mario. Hill Overton, WNDB Radio.
Yes, how are you?
Great, man. How are you doing? You and I in this room were there that same day. I got the privilege of seeing your work.
You haven't changed a bit.
Nor have you. Nor have you. I don't know how many people in this room were here that very day, but it's the first day I was ever here in Daytona for the 500. But I came to see my hero at the time. I was a fan then. Number 28 in the pearl white, number 28, Fearless Freddie Lorenzen.
Yes, sir.
But you beat us. You beat us. He fell out, I think, late, but he ran well.
No, he ran. He didn't fall out. He was right there, and I just pulled away from him.
But they tell me that blue,
No, he finished second. He finished a good, strong second.
that blue and yellow 67 Ford that you had was strong, but I heard you scared everybody. You were all over the track. You weren't one of the regular guys, and they told me they were afraid to try to get too close and pass you.
Oh, that's good. That was the idea, so it worked. Obviously, as I said earlier, I had to drive not the conventional way because of the way the car behaved. So, especially throughout the middle of the race, not everybody was really going for the lead. And I had to, because that's when the car felt the most comfortable. But again, if I kept them a bit confused, so be it. the stock cars was not my specialty for sure, but I certainly had a special car under me, and it was up to me to bring it home. So again, it worked.
Going to go to Bruce, and then we'll come up here to Joe.
Bruce Martin with Speed Sport Magazine. Mario, as the honorary race official, are you going to be giving input to David Hoots and Richard Buck as to when the caution should come out, or what's a caution and what isn't?
Well, first of all, they have to tell me about the rules. I'm a race official, but I don't know all the rules yet. So I got a lot of learning to do the next half hour.
More importantly, how do you compare and contrast what Daytona means to racing and what Indianapolis means to racing?
Well, they're both events are the crown jewel of the series, and as you can see, Daytona has many other Taj Mahals around the country where they have huge races, great infrastructures, but they've maintained the lead for the series, and the strong tradition that they had from the beginning, that Bill France Sr. started, Daytona, this was it, and it still remains that. And because of that, there's so much value to winning this race like it is about winning Indy. It's got as much value as winning a championship, quite honestly. It's unfair, to be honest with you, sometimes from a driver's standpoint, because many drivers that would deserve to win probably never win the big ones, but nevertheless, that's the way it is, and that's why it's so important. It's riveting. I guarantee you that in the drivers' meeting and before the race, there's more tension here than any other race during the year. And as drivers, we always like to say that we look, I certainly did too, look at every race. I prepared for every race exactly the same way, whether it was Indy, whether it was Formula One, anyway. But the value of the event in itself, this is the crown jewel of NASCAR. And all the attention is on this because, again, the winner of today's race, I guarantee you, will have a big, big feather on his or her hat.
Good. Joe?
Joe Jennings, Racing Nation. Mario, I caught part of a radio interview with you a few days ago when you talked about 1 gallon of fuel could make a heck of a big difference in your career.
Where are
Can
you?
you expand it right here?
Oh, huh. Go ahead. Sorry.
1 gallon of fuel would have made a big difference in your career for championships and wins. What was the rest of that story?
Well, actually, I was on a trip to South Africa, where you're in the car for 2 days. I mean, in the airplane for a long time. And you think about things that probably you wouldn't take time to do. And I started thinking, I wonder what 1 gallon of fuel would have meant to me career-wise. The times that I lost a championship and lost races just by having a couple more ounces of fuel. And I came down there to, it was 4 IndyCar races, it was 2 Formula One races, and there was 1 IndyCar championship and 1 World Championship. 1 gallon of fuel would have bought me all that.
Right over here.
Hi, Mario, John Haverland with PopularSpeed.com.
Hi, John.
A couple weeks ago, I was at the Phoenix IndyCar test, and I spoke to Alexander Rossi. He said that with all the engineering changes that have gone on during the offseason, he thinks that Andretti Autosport is going to be a step above where they were last year, but still slightly behind Team Penske. And also, Marco seemed very enthusiastic about this season, a little more maybe than we've seen previous years. I just wanted to get your comment on that.
Well, obviously, that's the skin that we have in the game, with Michael, my son Michael, with 4 cars in the race. And then, of course, Marco, my grandson, being one of the 4 drivers. Alessandro just obviously really came to life, by winning the 100th anniversary of the race, IndyCar race last year. And he's a very strong member of the team, and as he says, I hope that what they've done over, the off season, the engineering, some of the changes, some of the ones they've acquired, will make a difference. As you know, they have some new engineers from some of the strong teams that are always the chief competition, And, the hope is always high. You got to be thinking positively. Every team is doing their utmost, and they just hope that it's enough. There's always somebody that you think is going to be better than you, and that's what raises your, I think, your game, and, the Penske team, they're always teams to contend with. They've always been marquee teams, throughout their history. So, if you feel that you're good enough to beat them, you're in pretty good shape, and the hope is there.
And over the past year or so, I've become friends with someone that you've worked with, Michael Knight. I just wanted to know, last time you speak with him, and what kind of friendship you have with him now.
Oh, I've always had good friendship with Michael. He worked with the Newman House many years, and we worked together. And he's one really committed individual. He knows the sport in and out. I remember him when he was just a young journalist, for the Philadelphia Inquirer. I think it was an Inquirer, but again, it's a lifetime, a career that we've had together, and now he's in Phoenix. He's based there. He has a little back problem and so forth, but he even rode in a two-seater with me, so he just mustered that up. And good guy. It's one of the guys that has grown in the sport and has been very valuable to our sport, across the board.
Okay, we have time for one final question right there, and then we have a special presentation.
Caleb Whistler, Speedway Digest. Late last year, you wrote an article on the Players Tribune about a letter to your younger self. What was that time of self-reflection like for you?
Well, here again, when you're asked to do something, all of a sudden it's cause to look back and reflect, on the important times in your life and all the events that have changed your life along the way for obviously the better. And, things that just by just being, positive and relentless in your pursuit, it makes a difference. And the other thing is that I've learned a long time ago that if you keep a positive attitude, almost every negative usually can become a positive, and it's done that in my life. So, again, you just, how many times do you have reason to reflect back, your life? So by asking me to do that, it was good.
Okay, thank you, Mario. We're going to wrap up the press conference. I'm going to turn the microphone over to the president of the Daytona International Speedway, Chip Wow, for a special presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Well, Mario,
Hi, Chip.
it's amazing to share the stage with you. So many people in this room consider you their hero. And we love that you came to celebrate your 50th anniversary of you winning the Daytona 500. And so what we did was we got a one-of-a-kind Wagner of both of your victories here at Daytona. You're one of 4 guys to win both the Daytona 500 and the Rolex 24. We're so honored to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow, look at that. Where's the IROC car? I want an IROC here, too.
Joey, where's the IROC car, bro? Hey, blame Joey. That's what we all do. We all blame Joey.
Thank you.